Hey guys.
Hi, Kathy.
Thank you so much for coming to our place to have us get to know a little bit more about your story. I really appreciate it. So we are really just wanting to kind of dig in and hear some more about you guys and who you are and what you do and what your journey to health looked like as you have been kind of going through some things over the years. So tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you guys do.
Okay, well, we are Terry and Becky Dorner, and we're health coaches, and we became health coaches as a result of a 13-year battle that I had with chronic Lyme disease and co-infections and autoimmune disease and things like that. And it was a pretty debilitating journey, and I ended up just to get a diagnosis seeing 21 doctors, and it took 2 years, and we spent thousands and thousands of dollars just to get a diagnosis. And after the diagnosis then, Lyme disease is a very complex, bacterial and parasitic and pathogenic disease. And so we just started down the road of trying all kinds of mainstream and alternative therapies over this 13-year period, and it was quite a challenge. But ultimately, we found the answer through a natural healing sequence that we learned from our mentor, Dr. Jennifer Daniels, and she helped educate us on the fact that that fixing your problems is really common sense.
Right.
And she shared with us that there are only really 5 basic causes of disease. And when you address those causes and mitigate the effects of those in the order that she lays out, that lots of things clear up. And that's what happened with me. My symptoms started to clear up, and I got my life back, and I got my enjoyment of my wife and my family back. And that's kind of what led us here. But also what was kind of interesting about our story is that Becky had sort of an accidental transformation, as I say. Like a lot of women, she was busy raising our 4 kids and caring for me.
Yeah, I was taking care of him, and I didn't realize that I was in kind of bad shape myself.
Right.
I had gained quite a bit of weight. I was postmenopausal, so I had some hormonal issues. I had Hashimoto's, thyroid problems.
Yeah.
And I was exercising 3 to 5 days a week and still gaining weight.
Wow.
So I couldn't understand what was going on there. So through caring for Terry, I ended up getting well.
That is awesome, and a really awesome byproduct of him going through something and then you realizing, so with the symptoms that you guys had and some of the conditions that you had, so tell us a little bit more about like what kind of things were involved with your symptoms, and what was driving you to go try to find some help with that.
Well, what was driving me anyway is pain. Pain is a great motivator that drove me to continue to look and try anything that I felt like might have a chance of helping me. But in my case, Lyme disease, they call it the great imitator. It mimics 300 different symptoms. Now, not everyone has all 300 symptoms, but the problem with the diagnosis is that it oftentimes looks like everything else. In my case, my leading symptom was chronic fatigue. I was just a zombie all the time, dragging myself to work, napping in my car at lunch, looking forward to going home and sleeping. But in addition to that, I had depression, and I had anxiety, and I had claustrophobia symptoms as well. It's interesting in the claustrophobia. For example, I can now sit in a window seat on an airplane. I couldn't do that before.
Really?
I was all like panicky and stuff, and I had to have an aisle seat.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm fine with the window seat now. But the claustrophobia was just one of the symptoms.
So was that, do you think, like a byproduct of like anxiety that was
Well,
a part of like?
Can I interject?
Yeah, sure.
When you have inflammation from the neck down, chances are you have it from the neck up.
Yes.
And so if you have inflammation in your brain, then you have neurological symptoms.
Right.
And our hypothesis is that he had inflammation in his brain and therefore had some of these neurological issues and mood changes and behavior changes that weren't there before.
Wow. That's really interesting. And I can totally relate to that, actually, because when I was on my health journey, I had, extreme anxiety where, I couldn't be in the house alone. I would, just be on edge and panicked all the time. And then once I healed my gut, then my brain kind of followed suit, and all of that anxiety and high stress, high strung, it was gone.
Yeah.
And I was I had no idea, that was, so that's really interesting, especially, I've never heard of claustrophobia being something that would be related to that.
Well,
so.
Lyme disease, really, it's, I think to add to what Becky said, it's not only inflammation, but it's also toxicity. We live in such a toxic world, and there's over 100,000 chemicals in our environment, and they're everywhere. They're in the food, they're in the VOCs in paint, they're in flame retardants in pajamas and clothing, and just on and on and on.
Right.
And our generation is exposed to more chemicals, and we're taking those in, and we end up with a body burden of toxins in our system that result in symptoms.
Right.
And so I think that was part of the problem as well. But the depression was more pronounced, and I just have such compassion for people that suffer from depression, because if you've ever been there, you know that it's a really dark place that you can't talk yourself out of, distract yourself out of, exercise your way out of. You just feel stuck,
right.
And it's really scary, and you just want out. Part of that problem was that I was taking antidepressant medication for a while, and it really took me down the rabbit hole, and I knew that I was in a very, very dangerous place with the way I was feeling, and I went to Becky and I said, look, this is where I'm at, and you got to help me.
Yeah.
And she stuck to me like glue. And I stopped the antidepressants and pulled out of it. But that was a really scary thing. I did have some pain, primarily for some strange reason in my left ear, a little bit of joint pain and stuff like that. For the most part, that's cleared up, although when I get run down a little bit, my left ear is just kind of a little bellwether. It kind of talks to me. If I'm getting run down or whatever, I'm like, oh, my ear's talking to me.
Right.
But those were my symptoms, and just through...
And it lasted for so long,
Yeah.
for so many years. And
Yeah.
it was really rough on our kids, because, especially the older ones, because they knew Dad before, very involved, very active.
Right.
He was kind of like the Pied Piper of our house. He was the fun one.
Yeah.
And then he kind of went away, but he didn't go away. He was home.
Right.
He was in bed, but
Yeah.
not available to them
Right.
the way that they were used to. So it was really hard. It was really hard on them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who suffer from chronic illness, it sort of takes one to know one, but there are really at least 3 or 4 different aspects to being chronically ill. And one is, of course, the physical symptoms, but also emotionally. There's a lot of shame and guilt that goes along with being ill. In
Right.
my case, I just felt like I couldn't meet my obligations as a dad or a husband or an employee, and I just felt like everybody else was carrying my load.
Right.
And that really does a number on your self-esteem and how you feel about yourself and stuff like that.
And I'm sure it doesn't help with the depression either.
Yeah. And sometimes it's difficult to figure out, as you're trying to analyze your situation, am I depressed because I'm inflamed and toxic, or am I depressed because I'm just sad because of my circumstance?
Right.
And it's sometimes difficult. And I will say that in our marriage, Becky had the unenviable job of trying to spur me on and encourage me, or sort of kick me in the tail to get me, moving. And as the caregiver, she was dealing with this moving target of never knowing if my situation was can't or won't.
Right.
And sometimes she would try to get me motivated, get me moving, and I would say, Becky, this is one of those times I cannot. There were other times when I'd roll my eyes and I'm like, okay, well, I can do this, and she'd get me going, and we'd change the environment or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's difficult on a marriage and on a caregiver.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a moving target every day. And I used to be so meticulous about tracking my symptoms. I was looking for, I have a graph paper that goes all across the room, and I would track about 8 or 10 different symptoms or aspects of my health: my sleep, my pain, my diet, my rest, and all this kind of stuff, trying to come up with correlation.
Yeah.
And
did you ever find any correlations with that?
I'll tell you, not really. It just seems so random, and I know it's that way with a lot of people that are chronically ill. It just seems to come and go. You'd have a good day, and you'd be like, "Wait, what did you do? What did I do? What did I eat? What did I, what was my rest?" and all that kind of stuff, and then it would go away. And so it was very difficult. But I think, progress for most of that time was in fits and starts. You would, make 2 steps forward and 1 step back, or 5 steps back, and all that. But when I did finally, discover Dr. Daniel's, sequence, then the wellness journey was more linear, more of a straight line, like we would hope for it to be. And there was very little in the way of setbacks and relapse and things like that, which is just a testimony, really.
That was a new day.
So it was kind of like a roller coaster ride at first, and then once you kind of found a good plan, and then it was a straight shot from there to getting better.
Yeah. In the world of chronic illness, and in Lyme disease in particular, there's this sort of conventional wisdom that you have to have what's called a Herxheimer reaction, or a die-off reaction, and that's where you kill off bacteria or parasites in your system, then you feel bad until your body can detoxify it out. But with this sequence that we learned from Dr. Daniels, that Herxheimer effect, we learned just it doesn't have to be. And the reason it doesn't have to be is because part of this sequence teaches you how to help your body detoxify, so that when you kill off these bacterial pathogens or parasites, that they leave your body really quickly, and they don't hang out and make you toxic and headachy and fatigued and ill. And so that's really the difference.
Right.
I think one of the real key components to this sequence that Dr. Daniels teaches is this issue of bowel function, really. And people don't like to talk about it, but it's become a dinner table conversation at our house. But constipation is a real problem in America. And what we teach people, and sometimes they're shocked, but that they should be moving their bowels 2 to 3 times per day in order to have really good detoxification. And when you think about it, your digestive system is one of the most important detoxification systems of the body.
Right.
And when that gets slowed down or sluggish, and you're going once a day or even less, then toxins reabsorb. Pathogens and parasites and waste products don't have a good, quick, easy exit from the body. And that's disease-causing.
Right.
It makes us feel tired and sluggish and so forth. And, Becky and I have been to a number of health conferences, and we have listened to hundreds of, I think, experts now, people we really respect, functional medicine doctors and people that do natural healing. And this idea of 3 bowel movements a day is just not being talked about.
Right.
It's really a missing link. And it's transformative, as much as uncomfortable of a topic as it is. It'll transform your life. And so when we coach our clients, some of them are just they can't imagine how will I do that, but it's possible with the right diet and some natural supplementation, things like that, and it'll change your life.
Yeah, and it's not overnight, I'm sure, as none of this is, because it's just a long road and a process. So maybe if someone's only going every 2 weeks or something, then they'll start going every week or every couple of days, and then eventually 3 times a day, right?
Well, you can, people get results relatively quickly. I mean, the primary cause of constipation is really people are eating a lot of processed foods, which are very dehydrating, constipating, lots of dairy, which is constipating, too much meat and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And so when we coach clients, we teach them to eat a plant-based diet. We even put them in the beginning, suggest and teach them to do 100% plant-based diet, cleansing for a cleansing phase, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then maybe we add in just a little bit of well-sourced, targeted meats that are that have lots of great nutrients and stuff in them.
Right.
And so when you eliminate those constipating foods and you just put in, and you hydrate really well, and you put in
the
lots
water
of veggies
is really
and fruits,
Right.
those bowels can get moving pretty quickly. And then, like I said, there's also some natural supplementation. So it's a process, but it doesn't really take that long. I mean, the clients that we coach usually are feeling some little bit of improvement even in the first 7 days, maybe 10 days.
Yeah.
And, things go well from there.
So I want to go a little bit more into some of the things that you guys did that really helped improve, your overall wellness. But before we go there, I kind of want to know some of the things that you tried, maybe that didn't work. Some of the things that you spent money on that we thought maybe would be the golden ticket, but they
Right.
weren't. So, because I know a lot of people who are watching it probably tried a million other things too. So maybe if you could share some of the things that you were hoping would work, but maybe didn't
Right.
quite do what you thought they were going to do. And then I'd like to hear a little bit more about Becky, the same thing, some of the things that she
Yeah,
had
why don't you go
experienced.
ahead and talk about the boot camps and all that effort and money and time.
I didn't go through the extensive treatments and different protocols that Terry did. My situation was very simple in comparison, but I was trying to lose the postmenopausal weight because I had this thyroid problem, and I was exercising 3 to 5 days a week and gaining weight. That didn't make any sense.
Right.
And I kept trying to lose the weight by calories in, calories out, trying different methods, and none of those were working. I was so surprised to find out after my process of certification that so much weight loss has to do with hormones. It has to do with insulin. It has to do with the amount of carbs that you're taking in.
Right.
And if somebody had told me, you can lower your carbs and you can up your good fats and you will not be hungry and you will lose weight, I would have been shocked. But it was my story. It's what happened to me. I lost 30 pounds, 25, 30 pounds without even thinking about it.
That's awesome.
One day, literally, I woke up and went, my clothes are not fitting me anymore.
Right.
And
Wow.
I started getting on the scale and I realized I've lost all this weight.
Wow.
The thing was is that I was metabolically sick. I was gaining weight, but all around the middle, which
Is
was
the worst place to gain it.
insulin.
Right.
I was insulin resistant. My blood sugar, I started taking my blood sugar myself in the morning, my fasting blood sugar, and it was out of range.
Wow.
So I knew I was moving towards the wrong direction. And there is diabetes in my family. So it was important for me to get a handle on that. Now, I assumed that diabetes was a one-way street.
Right.
Once you have it, you start on the medication. Now, I was
Right.
pre-diabetic, so maybe they weren't so interested in me at that point. But I was, because I knew it was a continuum. It was going to continue to go in the wrong direction unless I made a change. And part of that change was the diet, the food, the sourcing of the food, and the makeup of the calories. It wasn't so much how many calories, but the ratios of fat to protein to carbohydrates. It made a huge difference.
Awesome. So then, with the big thing being like your weight gain, and those were some of your symptoms, tell us then, as you were kind of going along, some of the things that you did try. And obviously, the things that he finally found that worked for you too. But
Yes.
what were some of
Yeah.
the things, Terry, that you tried?
Well, we spent over that 13 years over $140,000 chasing mainstream and alternative treatments, and I mean, I tried some pretty crazy stuff. But some of the things that I tried was I did, of course, intravenous antibiotics. I did intravenous high-dose vitamin C. I did something called ultraviolet blood irradiation, where they remove your blood and they expose it to an ultraviolet light to to sort of supercharge your immune system through that. I had, and still actually own, they're collecting dust, 2 Rife machines. A Rife machine is a device that generates frequencies that go into your body that are supposed to destroy pathogens. And it's amazing technology. It's and I'm a believer.
Sounds expensive.
The machinery
Yes.
is expensive. I bought a couple of those machines over time.
Yeah.
I'm a believer that different things work for different people.
Right.
But all of these things didn't really move the needle for me. I bought another machine that put microcurrent into my body. Same concept. I just tried so many things, but that's some of the stuff.
Well, it sounds to me like a lot of the things that you tried, and probably that a lot of people who are dealing with like autoimmune conditions and other things are trying, is like it's kind of this one thing that's gonna be the thing that'll fix it. Oh, I have this, machine or this procedure or this thing that's all it's gonna take is that one thing, or maybe a combination of a few of these things. But really, what it comes down to is making those lifestyle changes.
Yes.
That is really the golden ticket. I mean, all those other things can be supplemental and help along the way.
Absolutely.
But if the main key is, if you're missing the main part, which is the diet and lifestyle changes.
Yes, you've resonated with us completely. The thing that we see a lot is this sort of one thing kind of modality. Even the supplement industry, for example, kind of operates on the same model, same model as the medical industry, which is that, I've got something wrong with me, I'll take a pill, but instead of it being a pharmaceutical, it's a supplement, and that misses the point. Yes, we're looking for the one thing to make us better, but the problem is with chronic illness, over 50% of people in the U.S. have at least one chronic illness. That really is the problem. Now, chronic illness is something like anything that's chronic that won't go away. High blood pressure, cholesterol issues, aches, pains, things like that. Diabetes. Yeah.
And like Kathy was saying, it's not one thing, and that's what we learned, that you needed to hit all these different levels. You start with your water, and then the bowel movements, and then the toxins, and then the diet, and then the parasites, and you just keep peeling away the layers.
Right. And integrating all those things on every level of your life, and even including things like getting the proper amount of rest and all those things that are like so
getting
simple.
Sunshine.
Yes, reducing your stress, because everyone knows how much that affects your health overall too. So, so you guys tried a lot of these kind of like, sounds like golden ticket things. You know, those didn't really work, and that costs a lot of money.
Yes,
so
we could have gone on a lot of vacations.
Well, hopefully now that you both feel great, you can do some more of that. But once you, I guess, kind of got, how did you first of all find out about like the plan that you started going on, and then how long did it take you to implement it and kind of see some results?
Well, I'd say that it was it was about 3 or 4 months from start to finish to where I went from maybe 40-50% functionality to 95%.
Wow,
where
that's
I'm at
really
now.
fast.
Yeah, it was pretty quick. I mean, once you find
But it was
the
intense.
formula.
We worked really hard every week to do everything she asked us to do, and it was pretty radical. I mean, as far as
so, could
our
you kind of give us
even.
just like a brief idea? I mean, obviously you said it's like some basic principles. So, what are some of those principles?
Well, so I got on this 16-week program with Dr. Jennifer Daniels, who practices over Skype natural healing, and she teaches a 5-step sequence, and what we found to be true with our clients was true with me, which is that when you go through this sequence and you implement these certain tactics in each of these areas in this order, beautiful things happen. Your body starts to heal itself. So the 5, so what we teach people is fundamentally that the body can heal itself. That's that health doesn't come in a prescription bottle.
That's right.
And as common sense as that sounds, there's a lot of people in this country that aren't familiar with that concept. The second thing we teach people is that just about everything that you need to help your body heal itself is available at the grocery store or online.
Right.
And then the third thing that she taught us is these 5 causes of illness and disease, this sequence. And it starts with dehydration as being the first cause. When you're and we are a dehydrated nation, believe it or not. And when you're dehydrated, your blood thickens, it doesn't cleanse itself, you become toxic, you become constipated, and that's at the root of why we start feeling bad and sluggish and so forth.
Yeah.
And also the water supply is contaminated for the most part, whether it's well water or fridge filtered water or
Right.
city water.
Right.
So you really need to filter your own water in your home so that you kind of know the chain of custody.
Right.
And the right filtration methods are really, really important. So she taught us what method of filtration to use and how much water to drink every day so that that would work out. And then the number 2 cause being constipation. She taught us some dietary and supplemental methods to get those bowel movements up to 3 a day. And then the third cause of illness, as she taught us, is malnutrition. And, we're not talking about third world country malnutrition. We're just talking about a lack of nutritional density.
Overfed and undernourished.
Yes.
For example, she interestingly says that if you're dependent upon coffee, for example, caffeine for energy in the morning, that's a function of malnutrition. Now, we don't think that way, but if we were giving our body the right kind of nutrition, our adrenals would function, we'd get the right cortisol, we'd get the right energy, and we wouldn't need caffeine to get started.
Right.
So a lot of roads lead back to this concept of malnutrition. And so just getting the diet right and eating, sort of in God's way, whole foods that come out of the ground, clean water, that type of thing. And then the fourth area that is such a massive area is toxins. And I could just spend hours talking about toxins because avoidance of them is practically, a full-time job.
Yes.
But the number one source of toxins is in the food supply. So if we eat organic, we clean that up.
Right.
That's followed then by personal care products, then household cleaners. Then you get into maybe environmental toxins in the workplace if you work in a factory or things like that.
Right.
And then after that, there's toxins like electromagnetic radiation, EMFs, wireless frequencies from cell phones and Wi-Fi routers and things like that. And there's a few other ones. Toxic relationships is a big one. Unresolved trauma, emotional trauma. I had gained some energy just a couple years ago when I started working on some unresolved trauma issues that I had. And I thought I had a pretty I didn't have a traumatic life. I had a great life. But trauma can be, your dad yells at you when you're 6 years old and it just stuck with you.
Yeah.
And
don't tell me that. I have booger wars with my toddler. I have to always, clean his nose. I'm like, this is going to scar my kid for life.
Yeah.
So hopefully not. We'll have to do some cleansing process 30 years from now.
Well, I'll tell you. I tell you, there's no perfect parents, and we're all damaged goods, and we just have to do our best to get through.
By God's grace,
pray for the rest.
Yes, He fills in the gaps for sure.
Absolutely.
But then the fifth area is parasites. We all have them, even in a first world country like the U.S. We get them through the food supply or irradiated meat. And parasites eat up a lot of immune system bandwidth, and it's a hugely neglected area. And parasite testing is very, very unreliable and very inaccurate. And so there are a lot of us walking around with a parasite load but we've been told by these various testing methods that we don't have them. And that was a big key that helped unlock my journey. Dr. Daniels, implemented with me some anti-parasite protocols and things like that, and I started to to feel better as a result of that as well. So that is the sequence that is pretty universal for human health. Dehydration, constipation, malnutrition, toxins, and parasites. Most folks we work with see really great results just with the first 3 steps: the dehydration, the constipation, and the nutrition side. And if they're more severely ill, the toxin and the parasite piece comes into play.
Right.
But that's 5 silos. And within those 5 silos, there's, there could be 10 to 20 tactics. I mean, so it's a lot of detail involved, but it's all common sense. I mean, I can boil it down by saying, drink clean water, eat whole food, and stop poisoning yourself, and life will be pretty good. But tactically speaking, it's really hard to do that in this
You have to be
world.
really intentional.
Very intentional.
To try to avoid a lot of these things. I mean, because I know it's not easy if you're not planning ahead to, get your food properly sourced and to, go out the door without coming into contact with all these other things and temptations and the food and other things.
That was one of the biggest changes that I had to make, was to plan for health. Plan my health into my calendar. Plan his health into the calendar and make it a habit. And that takes time. And that's where the coaching is helpful. That's where the doctor, talking to Dr. Daniels every week was helpful, is that over time things became a habit and we planned for health. Because if you don't, you will be planning for disease at some point. And that takes time, money, and heartache. So I'd rather do it this other way.
Yes. And it's much, while it takes some time and preparation and some cost, it's nothing compared to the costliness and the time that's going to be maybe taken off of your life, the quality of your life, the cost of caring for chronic disease. So, I mean, we wholeheartedly agree with that, of course.
One of the things one of the concepts that we teach our clients is this, that convenience is the enemy of health. And if you can just keep that, concept in mind. So in other words, if it's fast, it's probably not healthy. If it's packaged, it's probably not healthy. And this is just a general concept that we have to get into our head, because unfortunately there's just an onslaught of advertising and propaganda that would have us believe that packaged processed food is healthy and good for us. And it just most of it isn't. And so it is a shift. It is a shift in lifestyle.
It's funny to me hearing all of these things that, they are common sense. And my husband and I, we went through Dave Ramsey's Get Out of Debt plan, if you've heard of him.
Excellent.
So
yes.
It's exactly mirrored with the common sense of, okay, if we're going to have to save and not spend money and we can't get things that we want right away, and it's just everything is slower and we can't have the immediate gratification of okay, I'm going to have that thing that I don't have money for right now, so I'm putting it in a credit card, or I'm going to have this fast food right now because I want this right now and I don't want to go home and take the time to make a salad or something, So it's just really similar in how you can really, if you're not planning financially the same way with your your food and the way that your lifestyle is, you're going to be in debt later to the things that you've done to your body. You're going to be enslaved to this life that you built up for yourself by not taking the time to care, and taking the time to plan and kind of save for your health too. So it sounds like you guys, really. So how long has it been that you have had better health since that 13-year period? I mean,
I'm going on about 3 years now of great health.
That's awesome.
I haven't seen a doctor, and in those 3 years, and I don't plan on seeing a doctor unless there's some acute, a car wreck or something.
Right.
But,
same.
But we are sort of doctoring ourselves using food as medicine. And it's great. And I think Becky's health turned around probably about the same time, about 3 years ago.
So, because you started implementing some of the same things that he
Yes.
was.
Yes.
And then just as a byproduct.
Yes,
You know.
I was taking the notes and I was implementing, and I was the one sourcing and cooking and changing the whole food planning and all that
Yeah.
for our home, and it changed. That changed my health.
Wonderful.
I just want to make a comment that you said about just sort of this health debt that you end up, just by not taking care of yourself. One of my frustrations is that there's such a big piece of the population that doesn't know, that has not been exposed to the fact that there is another way to eat and to live,
Right.
for health. They've just been so indoctrinated. And that's really frustrating because I'm more into, we'll call it informed consent. If we're talking to a person or a friend or a client and we say, look, here's an alternative route to go, or you could go the same route you're going. And we've had people say, I had a gentleman say to me the other day, well, Terry, I'm not going to give up bread. And he's suffering from some sort of mysterious, debilitating disease, and he's in these experimental programs. They've given him no hope. And I said, well, then you're making a choice. You know there's another way, and you're making a choice. And it's your choice to do what you want with your life and your health,
Right.
And so forth. And I have an easier time with someone who's making an informed choice. I'm enjoying the processed food. I'm willing to pay the consequence.
Right.
It's my life. But that person knows that there's another alternative.
Right.
It's the people that are living in the bubble that have not been exposed to another way that kind of drives me crazy. And that's
Right.
what has driven a lot of this evangelism for
Right.
health and wellness and the truth about God's way to eat.
Yes.
That's what drives me. Just
Let people know.
Yes, we totally agree, because, whenever you walk into most grocery stores, that's not the first thing that you see. You're going to see all of the, highly processed, highly,
Yeah.
Most of the inside
yes.
of the store is off limits.
Exactly.
To us
And
health-wise.
that's what most everybody, and who's eating a standard American diet, that's what they're going to be eating. And that's why we're having the standard American diseases.
Which are increasing.
Yeah.
Autoimmunity is up.
Yes.
Obesity is up.
And you hear of so many people who are having Hashimoto's and thyroid disease, and who are having fibromyalgia. So many people in our immediate family,
Yeah.
are suffering from a lot of these things. And there's just so many. So knowing all of the things that are here to, I guess, assault us and, that are heavily influencing our lifestyles, what encouragement or what steps would you give to people who are going through their own health journey? Where would you have them to start, and what kind of recommendations could you give?
Well, for me, the food is so important. Start with food. Start with the foundation. Make sure that you're getting healthy, whole foods
Yes.
into your body. That's so important. Start there before you start taking the medication. Do some research. The information is out there. There is another way, and there is another path to wellness besides just getting a prescription from the doctor. So do that first. I'm not anti-doctor or anti-medical procedures. I think there's a place for that.
Right.
But make sure you get the toxins out of your life, out of your household, out of your food supply. Eat organic. If you can find a wellness coach that can help you make those changes, great. That's where I would start.
Okay, that's really good recommendations.
Yeah, we with some of our clients, we're part of a team that they put together, and we have some clients who are seeing traditional doctors, and they might be on chemo, for example, or other medications, and but even having this sort of coaching on this sequence that we've been talking about will improve outcomes for a lot of traditional treatments, like chemo or whatever. So it serves as a foundation for health, even if a person is still sort of wrapped up in the in the mainstream medical system. But in addition to what Becky has said, I would advise people to find either health coaches like ourselves or a functional medicine doctor who is trained in integrative medicine, natural methods as well as pharmaceutical methods, let's say, so that they can make a decision. And there's more, and it's a really growing area. There are more and more traditionally trained MDs who are seeing the light of this food as medicine philosophy and the elimination of toxins and steering their patients in those directions. And so functional medicine is really a growing thing. I would say also that the typical, whether it's a functional medicine doctor or not, that the business model there is not conducive to walking with a patient or a client on a regular basis. You might see your doctor once a month or once every few months, and what happens in between those visits is important. And that's why health coaching is growing so much, because it fills that gap in between your doctor visits and helps you to improve and get that foundation for health. We worked with a client who had Lyme disease, a gentleman in Wisconsin, and he was seeing actually a holistic doctor who was using all natural and herbal type methods and that type of thing. And he layered in the protocol that we teach, and he went back to see his doctor for another checkup, and the doctor did some testing and said to this gentleman that he had made faster progress than any other patient that he'd seen with the same condition. So that's a real testimony to the ability of the body to heal itself.
Right. Yes. Well, we are definitely made to be able for our bodies to heal and to utilize all of the food and nutrition, all the other good things that we give it to keep ourselves healthy. So we definitely agree and believe in that. And I just want to encourage people who may think, well, I don't have money to have a health coach, or I can't afford to eat organic, to, maybe sacrifice in some of the areas of your life that, you could cut back, or because those are the most important things. Because if you can have, the car payments and all the other things, maybe, some of the nicer things, but you're not going to be healthy or feel well to enjoy them. You can go on the vacations and feel like crap the whole time. So just cutting the fat where you can to make these things a priority, so that you can actually integrate some of the other things that actually are, I think, in my opinion, going to be a lot less costly in the long run when you have, people walking with you to help guide you along, and then, you're looking and sourcing and getting the foods that your body needs to be able to repair itself. It's going to be cost you a lot less overall.
And what's interesting is that this business model is not repeat business.
That's right, because when someone's well, it's not like the doctors.
If we've done our part, then we've educated so that you have the tools and you can pull your own levers and you can go forward with your health, advocating for yourself.
That's right.
Generally, businesses are set up for repeat business to keep, reproducing and
and that's the exact business model of our current medical system, because they don't want you getting well, they want you to be chronically on prescriptions.
We're not set up that way. We're set up to give you the information and so that you have it and you can advocate for yourself, and you can help yourself get well
and even help others like you guys are, because you guys reached out for help, and now you're able to take that same information and help other people, which I think is wonderful.
Well, and when you talk about just the cost or the investment, I mean, it sounds cliche, but your health really, I can tell you from personal experience, when you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And it is really your most important asset. And but for the number of countries out there in the world, the ROI, the return on investment that you make in your health is it's almost incalculable because of the intangibles that you gain, the enjoyment of your life and your family again. But we have had clients who have net saved money because they're not paying co-pays for medications, they're not paying out of pocket for more doctor visits, they're not buying junk food and we've worked with some wine drinkers. Wine's expensive, and they cut that out of their budget. And we've had people on their overall household budget. Some people end up spending a little bit more on organic. Some people end up kind of in a net even situation, and some actually even save money. It depends on the circumstance.
Right.
And but when you sort of look at that over the arc of time, the return in what you save on your health.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I can tell you, we on average spent about $10,000 a year. Some years it was 20, some years it was $5,000. Well.
Wow.
We're saving $10,000 a year.
Yeah.
Right.
That we get to use for other things over what I was spending previously. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
Yeah,
that's true. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as, because even if you have good health insurance, you're still having to pay co-pays and meet deductibles. I mean,
That's
I never
right.
even consider with my health insurance coming even close to meeting a deductible because I never go to the doctor. Like, this is literally like, emergency insurance, basically, if something
That's
catastrophic
right.
happens. That's all I need it there for,
Yeah.
So it's just really interesting how if you do calculate this or calculate the missed work or the all the downtime that you have from being ill, like it does outweigh the cost of actually just taking care of your body and investing in good health overall.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. And Becky and I we just feel so privileged to be able to spend this phase of our life doing this and helping people. And so our personal, speaking of bad business models or whatever, we don't want repeat business. We don't sell anything else like supplements or anything. We want to be able to make a recommendation for a supplement or a water filtration system just free of any conflict of interest and
we're
that
not
type
representing
of thing.
any of those
But
products.
we guarantee our clients results, and if they don't get the result they want, we give them their money back, even if they don't do their part, because we're in it to try to help create life change, and we're really not in it for just to take people's money, and that's the way we operate, because some people are a little unsure about like what this health coaching space is all about, and people work hard for their money and they don't want to risk it, and so we make it as easy and unintimidating as possible.
Yeah. That's great. Well, it's a lot like having, a personal trainer or anything like that.
Yeah.
Someone who
Yeah.
can help you, who knows, they've been there and they're walking through it and they've already been there and done that and they're in good health or good physical shape.
Yeah.
So it's great to see you guys
Yeah.
here and so vibrant and healthy. And I know it's an encouragement to me and I hope to others who are watching. So thank you guys for your time and thank you for sharing your wisdom. And we look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Thank you, Kathy.
Well, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. And we're just looking forward to partnering with you and helping spread the word about all the
Better
benefits
health,
of eating organic and that type of thing. So
Agreed.
thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. And we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thank you.